Colorado and USC played in an absolute classic. Oh my goodness, this game was a roller coaster ride. At one point, it looked like we was about to get Colorado versus Oregon part 2 because USC, they were really putting it on Colorado. At halftime, it was 34-14. Now, watching this game, Colorado looked way better in this game than what they did against Oregon. Against Oregon, they didn't even look like they deserved to be on the field with those boys. But in this game, their offensive line actually gave Shedeur Sanders a little bit of time to throw the football. Now, he was still running for his life back there. He was still getting sacked hella times. But this offensive line, they gave him some time to throw the football, and they also opened up some running lanes for these running backs. For the first time this whole entire season, Colorado, you know what they were actually able to do? They were actually able to run the ball in between the tackles. That's something that they've been struggling to do all season. Now, their wide receiver core is super deep. Okay, everybody was like, who's going to step up with Travis Hunter going down? They got Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn Jr., but then they got this outstanding true freshman named Amarion Miller, who was going off in the second half like out of nowhere. This was so random. This true freshman wide receiver was just coming into the game in the third quarter. I guess Deion was like, man, F it. We down hella possessions. Let's throw those young guys in. Like, I'm pretty sure Deion Sanders was probably on the sidelines like, man, y'all out there acting like y'all don't want to play. We gonna put some people in there that want to be in there then. That boy put Amarion Miller on the field. He was going off. And then we finally saw Cormani McClain. And boy, he did not disappoint. He had a really nice breakup on Brendan Rice in the goal line. Cormani McClain, he was locking those boys up. And I really hope that Deion Sanders starts him because the other cornerbacks that Colorado has had out there, they aren't it, man. Number 3, he's a good tackler, but he's a liability in coverage. Like, Colorado has no great cornerbacks. And it's really surprising because Deion Sanders is one of the greatest that ever played that position. You'd think he would have a great eye for cornerbacks, but he just doesn't. So Cormani McClain, he needs to be out there. Now, he is 165 pounds, but I don't really think that means anything because most of the receivers that we see in today's age of college football, they're like around the same weight too. They're no bigger than 175, and he does have pretty good length and athleticism. So I don't really think him being 165 or 170 is really going to hurt him too much. He's a dog. He needs to be out there. Now, when you look at USC in this game, their offense was flawless. But they do have some issues on that offensive line. Their offensive line is not bad, but it's not as good as what it was last year in 2022. In 2022, they had a really good offensive line, one of the best in all of college football, in my opinion. But in this game, there were times when Colorado was really able to get after Caleb Williams, especially in the second half. So with their offensive line, I think that's kind of going to hinder them when they really start to go up against teams that have the same level as talent as them. And then defensively, you know, people will write about Alex Grinch. This defense is better, but it's not good enough to beat a Oregon or a Washington. We just got to keep it 100. We got to keep it a stack. If you're a USC fan, do you really think this defense is good enough to get you a key stop to beat Oregon or the Huskies in the Pac-12 championship? I mean, you know your offense can go point to point, can go point for point with anybody because you got Caleb Williams and company, but you still need to be able to get key stops. There's no guarantee that your offense is always going to have the ball last to win games. Bo Nix gets the ball last against this defense. They're driving it downfield and winning the game. Same thing with Michael Penix. Your defensive line is a lot better, but I still think that it's not up to the level that it needs to be when you're trying to win in the toughest conference in college football right now. Oregon has a stout offensive line. Same thing with Washington. And against Colorado, I mean, you were getting pressure on Shedeur Sanders, but your secondary was giving up a lot of big plays. It's like you would have expected for USC's defense to look like how Oregon's defense looked. with the caliber athletes they have, guys like Bear Alexander, one of the best defensive tackles in all of college football. They got some really good players on that defense. But that defense isn't performing up to the level of talent that they have. And Alex Grinch, this dude is going to be the death of Lincoln Riley being able to win the national championship. You don't need to have a elite defense to win a national championship. You just need to have a good enough defense that's around top 40, top 50. That's good enough. You just need to have a defense that gives you a chance to win a game or can get a couple of stops here and there. But USC's defense in the second half of this game, they got shredded. And you can say, well, they were up, so maybe they took their foot off the gas. Okay, so what's going to happen if you're up big against Washington or Oregon? You just going to take your foot off the gas there? Like, Colorado should be the last team that you want to take your foot off the gas for. They got a great quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, and they got a team that's highly motivated. Like, Deion Sanders, I'm pretty sure with how those young guys were playing, like they were ready to prove a point. Like, the way Carmine McClain was out there playing, he was playing looking at Coach Prime like, yeah, like, you better be starting me next week. Like, bump all that junk you was talking before the game and all the week leading up to it. Man, you need to make sure that I'm starting next week because I'm better than any other cornerbacks that you've had starting over me. Like, Carmine McClain needs to be starting. And imagine how good this team's going to be when Travis Hunter comes back. Now, I had Colorado winning more than 3.5 games this year. I came out and I told you I think they're going to be a 7-win team this year. Now, they've hit a really brutal stretch in the schedule. Okay, last 2 weeks, really tough. Oregon on the road. Do you know how hard it is to win at Autzen Stadium? They call that stadium the zoo for a reason. Really difficult to win there. And they got steamrolled. Then they gave Oregon some extra motivation. Their players were stomping and stepping on their logo. They were getting into it with Oregon players before the game. Like when Dan Lannon said, we're going to talk with our pads, I understood where he was coming from. Okay? And Colorado just got outmatched in that game. But you look at how they played against USC, it definitely gives you a lot of optimism with their next 2 games coming up. They got to play Stanford, Arizona State, then they got a bye week before they got to play UCLA on the road. They should be able to clobber Stanford and Arizona State. Those are 2 of the worst teams in all of Power 5. Now, they probably won't blow out neither one of those teams. You'll probably see more games similar to like Colorado State, even though Colorado State has proven to be a way better team than what we gave them credit for. Like, they're on a 2-game win streak ever since that loss to Colorado a couple of weeks ago. Now, when you look at Colorado with how their roster is, the roster has weak points. So when you got a team with deficiencies, you can't expect a dominant performance out of these boys every single week. Now, there's some people out there that think that I'm one of those people that's part of the Deion tax that Josh Pate was talking about. You know, there are people that think I'm a casual and I'm just gassing up Deion Sanders and I'm just on the bandwagon. But no, like, if you guys actually go and you look through my videos before the season, I was on the hype train before anybody even boarded on that thing. I picked them boys to beat TCU. Like, I was yelling on this microphone all summer that Deion ain't go all the way to Boulder, Colorado to win some damn 3 games. Now, I get why people consider me a casual. You feel me? Like, it's a lot of people that keep saying, oh, you're part of the Deion tax that he was talking about on Twitter and Instagram, because I made an Instagram reel saying how I believe that Colorado was going to beat Oregon. And it did massive traction. All the Oregon pages were posting it. Barstool Oregon posted it. And then, of course, when Colorado got beat down, everybody was making me eat those words, boy. And a couple of Oregon players even reposted it. And that's when I started reading the comments, and they was like, yeah, you're just a casual fan. Like, you just started watching college football. Like, no, like, I've been on the Colorado hype train before people even started boarding the station or even getting on the train or even, riding to the station. And you guys can go look through the videos. You feel me? So I think that a lot of people got this misconception that Colorado was supposed to be this great team. Like, they were a team that overachieved. They were not supposed to be 3-0. Now, just because I had them at 3-0, I just had them at 3-0 because I really believe in Shedeur Sanders and I believe in Deion Sanders. And I thought they were going to beat TCU just off the sheer merit that, yeah, it was on the road, but it's week 1. And if you follow college football, you know that in college football, a lot of upsets occur in week 1 because teams come out rusty. You got to replace a good amount of your team that you lost from last year. And I just thought that with Colorado, just the unpredictability that they were going to have, it just was a game that favored them. I was really surprised that they were a 21.5-point underdog considering everything that was in question about TCU going into that game. And then they blew out Nebraska. That was expected. Nebraska was terrible. When you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't really matter if you got a better team all around. Like, you got no quarterback. You got no offense. You're done. And then, they nearly lost to Colorado State. Okay, that's what you expect. But it's like, for those of you guys who think that Deion Sanders was supposed to win a national championship or something like that, like, no. One of my homies said that I'm going to believe next year. Like, the expectation was to be better than what they were last year, which they already exceeded. Anything else is just, a cherry on top. And Deion Sanders, of course, like, he wasn't going to be satisfied with no three wins. And of course, before the season, you ask him what his expectations was. Of course, he's going to say we won it all. Why not? Of course, because that's Deion Sanders. But in his mind, a successful season is 6 to 7 wins. You feel me? Now, of course, he wants to win it all. His goal is to win it all, but he would be happy with the 7-win season. You feel me? Now, a 3-win, now, even if they only win 3 games from this point forward, I don't think he would be happy with that. And that's not me having over-realistic expectations for the program. That's just me, looking at Deion Sanders and knowing the kind of person that Deion Sanders is. You see, the reason why I believe so much in Colorado is because I believe in Deion Sanders. This dude is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest athletes ever. He played both football and baseball and played both sports at a pretty high level, even though he was a Hall of Famer in football. To be a Hall of Famer, it takes a certain amount of dedication and work ethic. And I think that a lot of people misunderstand Deion Sanders. They see all the shenanigans, the flash. He can come off a little bit cocky at times, and it rubs people the wrong way. But it really rubs people the wrong way when you're arrogant, cocky, and you got a big ego, and you're really freaking good. So, of course, people are going to be really, either you hate Deion Sanders or you love Deion Sanders. And, of course, the people that are detractors of Deion Sanders are going to try to find every opportunity to, try to make him look like Colorado is being overhyped and things like that. Like, bro, Colorado's not overhyped. Like, everybody was excited to watch this game despite what happened last week because it was Colorado. We were going to see Shedeur Sanders versus Caleb Williams, and it didn't disappoint. But also, it's the Deion effect. People want to watch Deion Sanders. My grandparents are watching college football, something they've never, ever watched because of Deion freaking Sanders, bro. Like, it's people in your family that probably never watched college football before that's watching college football now because of Deion Sanders. They want to see what the hell Colorado is about to do. So, like, the people that are calling me a casual because of one viral video that I made on Instagram, like, bro, I was trolling. It's Instagram, it's social media. I don't really take myself that serious on there because the only way people really view you is when you're doing shit like that. You feel me? And it's crazy how people watch that video, but nobody watched the video I made when I had Colorado beating TCU. I literally came out and said that TCU was going to lose. And that reel is still up there, but everybody want to pay attention to the Oregon and Colorado one. I'm not no casual. I've been on the Deion Sanders and Colorado bandwagon and on the hype train before it even left station. Go through the videos, man. Like Deion Sanders said, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. You probably can say I'm a Miami Hurricane fan and a Colorado fan at this point. Like, I still believe in Colorado. Like, Colorado had a tough 2-game schedule. Like, they played two of the best teams, not just in the Pac-12, but in all of college football. Like, there was a severe talent advantage that those teams had compared to Colorado. So overall, Colorado, I was really surprised to see how much they were able to test USC in this game. This was a one possession game. Like I picked Colorado to cover, but I didn't think they were going to make this a one possession game. And with some better clock management, if Colorado could have gotten one more possession, they probably could have put this game to overtime or sent it to overtime, excuse me. But for USC moving forward, they're a good team. I got them making it to the Pac-12 championship, but I got them having 2 losses. I just don't think they're better than Washington right now. And I think Washington is the best team in college football, in my opinion. I just don't think that USC's defense is good enough for them to win the Pac-12. Now, do they have a championship caliber defense? I mean, I think they do. I think their defense is capable of being able to get stops. They were shutting down Colorado's offense early in this game. Like, this is a defense that has talent. They're capable. It's just the Pac-12 is just so stacked. You're not going to be able to outscore Oregon and Washington when Oregon and Washington have some pretty legit defenses, especially Oregon. So for USC, it's going to be hard for them just to get through their schedule unscathed by just saying, fuck it. We got Caleb Williams and we can just outscore you and we can out-scheme you because we got Lincoln Riley. Like, that's cool. It sounds easy in theory, but the Pac-12 is a dogfight, man. And if you don't have a good defense, you're going to be in trouble. Like, if Utah had a fully healthy team, they probably could be the best team in the Pac-12 right now. Like, injuries have severely derailed them, but their defense has played at an insanely high level. Imagine if USC had Utah's defense. They probably would be the best team in college football right now. But give me your thoughts on USC being able to outlast Colorado. I had a lot of things to say. Now, the last thing we're going to get into is this.